What's going on, everyone? This is Stephen Place with Precision Volume Alerts, and welcome to Watchlist Wednesday for Wednesday, December 1st, 2021. The markets are down. And it's not really showing up on the S&P that much. There's a lot of pockets that had a lot of speculative excess that is wearing off right now, and there's just a lot of spookiness in the market. It's not even Halloween. So the question in this Watchlist Wednesday, the theme that I want to go over answers a question. It's saying, how much of a pullback should we be expecting in individual stocks? Because one of the issues that you can have is you wait for the dip, and then the dip happens, and then you buy the dip, and then it dips further, and then you get stopped out and you lose money, and then that's when it bottoms out. If you've traded for any point of time, you've all been there. We've all been there. It's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. Your goal is just to make sure you're in the right spots at the right time to get the best risk, reward, and odds in your favor. So one tool that you can use is something called a VWAP. This is a volume weighted average price, and it shows the average transaction value on any given stock. And it will almost behave like a moving average, where it will come up and act as a key support level. So I want to go through some examples right now to just say, what you need to have in this market right now, given the pullbacks we're having, is to just have some context of where buyers might start showing up. Because if a stock is at $100 and the swing anchored VWAP is at 90 and you start buying at 95, that may not have been the best buy point. Okay. So let's hop over. We're going to look at the S&P first, because I do want to put this all in context. Right now, the market is selling off because of primarily two things. The first is that a variant popped up and everyone's spooked about it. Okay. And again, it's not whether or not we have an opinion on what's going to happen with that variant in the future in terms of lethality and transmissibility and all that other crap. It is what everyone else thinks will happen and who is scared enough to blow out of their positions. So right now, just in the grand scheme of things, we really haven't seen a whole lot to the downside. We're currently sitting around about 4%. So it's a 4% pullback from all-time highs. This is helped by the fact that large cap tech is just doing pretty good, right? Aside from Facebook, but like Apple gapped up today. So that is helping to drag the entire market higher. But if you look at the S&P, we are coming into a key anchored VWAP level from this swing low. Okay, so the swing lows from the 4th of October, and we haven't tested it yet, but we're getting close. And this level right here coincides with prior resistance, which is now potential support. We have a key volume shelf coming in at 453 2/3. And that just seems like a good level. And what the ideal scenario here, okay, perfect world. Today we saw a small gap down, an auction higher that just completely got wiped out. We're near the lows. Ideally, what happens now to the markets is we see a gap down tomorrow. And if we see a gap down into that anchor VWAP, into that volume shelf, into all of those key levels, that will probably be a local bottom. Okay. Now that I've said that, right, the market's just going to blow through it and I'm going to look like an idiot. But that's a good place to just say, here's some context. This is still a pretty normal pullback. Yeah, volatility is picking up, but what else is new? But that would be a good place to say we should start looking for buyers and we should start looking for buying opportunities in the broad market. Okay. Now you've got other names that are starting to come into key swing anchored VWAP levels. And the way that I like to do it, I look for either very high volume days that bring in a lot of new market participants, and we want to track the average price of when they've paid, but we also want to see key pivot levels. So if the market sells off and then aggressively bounces off a level, I would like to track what the average price is into that, because it will tell me if the buyers are still in control. Okay, we could do something similar. This wasn't on our list, but we could look at the NASDAQ. All right, there's the anchored VWAP from that level, which if we were to pull back further into prior resistance, potential support at 382.5, the VWAP's a little bit higher than that, but it's pretty close. Okay, we could probably do something similar with the IWM where, you know, this one's going to be a little bit harder to do. But if you use a gap A VWAP right here, okay, all right, and you know that could be close. It was. This is the problem with doing it live because my levels always don't look good. That was pretty close to a level yesterday, and then it's now getting blown through, so that just may need a little bit more time. What will happen is if you keep adding these on, you will eventually get VWAP spaghetti, and then it just stops looking good. But you can just start anchoring off of these support levels and just find potential areas. Okay, and here's another one right here at 212. I don't want that to happen. I got bullish the Russell yesterday. It's working out great. But that's a key level to watch for as well. So let's talk about some individual names. The first I've got is CF. And this one might not be it. We may just need a deeper pullback. And the sellers are absolutely in control in the near term. So it's difficult to make that case. But at least you can see how this has worked in the past. Let's see if I can find a rectangle. There we go. The last time, so off of the anchored VWAP from 10th of September, the first test of that, even though we knifed underneath it just a little bit, that held. And that led a move from 55 all the way up to about $67. That's a pretty good trade. And so now we've got this anchored VWAP that is now higher. Okay, it's almost like a moving average. It continues to drift higher in price. And now is a very interesting level. I'd like to see how it acts into this. You don't have to knife catch right into a level. You can wait for price action to confirm and things like that. But this is an interesting spot for CF Industries. Now, if this breaks, yeah, fine. You know, if you take the long, you just get out for a loss. But if it cracks down to 56 1/3 and retest that level, then you've got a secondary level to work with. So that's the first one I'm watching. The next one is going to be in Funko, and you can do this in a lot of names right now. And you can anchor a lot of the volume weighted average price level against the March 2020 lows. And we are seeing enough stocks drop down into that it becomes a very key point, in these stocks, and they're aligning with a lot of levels as well. So if you take a look at Funko has a support level that probably everyone's watching at $15, $16 a share. Underneath that, we've got this anchored VWAP coming into play at 14.5. And this lines up pretty close to the gap fill in March, as well as prior resistance. And I'll just go ahead and slap this on a chart really quick. Do horizontal ray. There we go. Okay, so we have seen instances in which sellers have shown up at this level, prior resistance, potential support, aligned with an anchored VWAP. Okay, so that's a decent level to work with, especially if we see a little bit more movement to the downside. A lot of names are having that look right now. Another one, Boeing. I'll make a new one so you can see it. The swing anchored VWAP against the March crash lows, right? We're right about there. It's not exactly there, but it's getting pretty darn close. And that lines up with a volume shelf as well as a gap fill at 187 1/3. That looks like a pretty good knife catch area for Boeing, right? You could probably get away with buying some calls and, you know, just letting the premium pay for the cost and the risk, and then you'll probably get paid. All right. So that's another one to consider. You can keep using these and say, does this reference point make sense in the context of how far and how fast the stock has traveled and what levels we're working with? We can also start anticipating some other ones. Oh yeah, and off the top of my head, I remember this one. I think it already broke it. But Disney came into the anchored VWAP from the March 2020 lows 2 days ago, and it did hold. It's just that the market sucks right now. So the other thing you can do is you don't have to blindly knife catch these levels. You can say, okay, right now on Disney, right? The anchored VWAP's 146 2/3. If it gets and closes above that, then you have the case for a failed breakdown. and then you can play it to the upside. Okay. So you don't have to, I'm just trying to make sure that everyone watching this doesn't get blown out blindly buying every single dip. You don't have to be the first one into the trade. You can wait for the stop runs to happen and just pay a slightly worse price for confirmation. Okay, but all of these are coming into some pretty significant levels on a longer term basis, especially with the news that we've experienced over the past few days. You can also start looking at some of these leaders and say, okay, if and when this happens, then I want to be involved. So right now, as an example, AMD had a monster run from about $100 all the way up to $164. It's trading a little soft right now. It's still one of the strongest stocks in the market. Do I want to trade it right now? No, probably not, right? But if the stock drops enough where that anchored VWAP starts to catch up into price, then I would really consider being involved. Okay, so you can start planning your trades before they happen. You can anticipate some of these levels. And what you'll find, I mean, it's just magic sometimes where these indicators, as price comes into these indicators, the indicators will have drifted higher enough where there are other key levels that are reinforced into that as well. Key price, support and resistance, key moving averages, and so on. All right. So it's a beautiful thing. It's a very elegant way to start looking at the market. Okay. So you absolutely need to start watching these. One more thing you could do if you wanted to be a little bit more of a trend follower, and we'll just hop over to Disney really quick. You can start using the anchored VWAP against the start of a sell-off to say, okay, buy if this takes it out. Okay. So it's very similar to, if you run a trend following strategy that just looks at the 20-day moving average. And if the 20-day moving average is down, you don't want to play it. But if price crosses above it, then that's your system, right? You can do something very similar where you allow the sellers to flush it out. You wait for buyers to regain control, and you wait for that break back above another key AVWAP. Okay. So that's what I'm watching right now. Overall, the markets are, they suck right now. So we'll see how it goes over the next few days. We'll see if we get any extra news flow. But start using these indicators to figure out the best prices available for you to transact and speculate on the markets, okay? Because if all you're doing right now into this price action is worrying and not planning, then you're going to be on the wrong side of the market again when the market turns. I got to tell myself that all the time as well. So over at PVA, we're watching the market. We're not making a ton of moves because this market's trading like trash. But when we start to see some of these stocks come into our key levels, like Boeing, for example, if it comes into that level, we've got to take that trade because that is a good risk-reward trade. If you want to see how our approach works and how this anchored VWAP works within the context of the trading roadmap that we use, there's a training video that you can go watch right now. It's a free webinar. Click below this link, click below this video to get to the link to get to the training. And after you get trained up and indoctrinated into our trading system, then you can become a member of Precision Volume Alerts, where you get access to our portfolio and our trade alerts sent out via email and SMS as well. That's all I got for today. Have a great day.